I was extremely paranoid on my walk today. I felt like something bad was going to happen to me, and you'll discover why that is a little later on. And I was walking down the ramp, as I always do on these walks, and I heard this really strange noise. And I was like, what the hell's that? Is that like an animal escaped from a zoo? Or is there some sort of beast charging at me with its claws, ready to kill me? No, it was a man with a beard, sneezing all the way around the cliffs. So last night when I couldn't sleep, I went on YouTube, and one of the recommended videos for me was a video from a channel called Fascinating Horror. And basically what this guy does is he makes these 10-minute videos explaining incidences in history where there have been mass fatalities from human error. And being a big fan of true crime, it's the sort of thing that I would really get into. And in the words of Davros, it is truly fascinating. So I started watching a couple of these videos, and it was really kind of a bad idea because I became really paranoid and really anxious very quickly, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I thought I'd just go through some of the ones I watched and the stories behind them. So the first video I watched was about a place called Summerland, and it's in Douglas, not Henry, Douglas, in the Isle of Man. And basically this place is like a fun centre. It's got a sauna, it's got a swimming pool, it's got restaurants, it's got roller skating rinks, you know, it's got basically all the things you need for fun. And basically what happens is there are these three Liverpool boys who are really young, they're only about 12 or something like that, and they go out for a cigarette, and they just throw the cigarette away, and it causes the whole building to catch fire. The building's made out of this material called Oroglass, which is supposed to be not flammable, but actually is highly flammable, and so the whole place goes up. Now naturally in a situation like that you'd expect the alarms to go off, but the alarms didn't go off because the wiring system failed because of the heat. So the building's on fire, everybody's running around like crazy, but there's a problem. Nobody can get out because all the fire exits have big chains around them so that people can't walk in from the street and get into the building without paying. And there's another problem. From what I gather, this material called Oroglass sort of makes it as if it's sort of melting. So you have all this melting sort of plastic substance falling on your face and burning it. And all this going on while you're running about looking for your family and your friends, and there's no way out because the doors are chained. And it's just sort of like you're trapped in this building with no way out. In the end, there were 50 deaths from the Summerland disaster and 80 people seriously injured. When the investigation was launched, one of the things that came out was the fact that the people who built the outside were not the same people who built the inside, and so they didn't know where to put the fire exits or anything like that. And also the people who built the inside undid some of the things that the people who made the outside put in place to keep people safe. So that was Summerland, and now we come on to Action Park, which is in Margaret. No, it's not really. It's in Vernon in New Jersey. Well, it's not anymore. It was there. It's not there anymore. And my perception of this park is that people went there and yeah, they had a great time. And I think one of the reasons they had a good time was because the level of safety was so bad that you know people just had fun because they were stretched and they were going beyond what they should have done, and we'll see in a few examples. For example, the go-karts, they had speed regulators, but there was a way of stopping the speed regulators so that they could go as fast as they wanted to go. And so, for a kid that would have been really exciting because they were going really, really fast, and it was really, really cool, but it did cause accidents. Some of these amusement parks have death slides, and Action Park had one of those. It was like a slide that went right down, and then there was a loop. And if you didn't go fast enough, well, tough luck. You'd just fall down and hurt your head, which I thought was just baffling because, it must have been clear to the people who built it that, if you didn't go fast enough, then an accident would occur. But I just suppose it didn't even go into their minds. And in this video about Action Park, the guy shows you a picture of this wave pool where there's lots and lots of people in it. And my first thought about that was, oh my god, it must be so filthy in there. Because I think when I was younger, I didn't so much mind about the dirtiness of swimming pools, but now I've got anxiety and everything. I'm very wary about how clean a swimming pool is. So that was my first thought, think of all the hair and all the horrible nastiness that's in that wave pool. But anyway, the wave pool was dangerous because the waves could sometimes get really, really big, and they used to fill the pool up with as many people as possible, which of course is never a good idea. And because the waves were so big, they would just drag people right up to the deep end, and of course people just could, young children just couldn't cope with that, and then they would just drown. They weren't used to this, deep water. So I think by the end of it all, there were 6 deaths from Action Park. I think my favourite videos from Fascinating Horror are the ones that happen at amusement parks, and I think it's because people go there thinking this is a safe place to be. You can go on the rides and you have total confidence that you're going to be safe, but that whole idea is destroyed when all these fatalities start happening, and that's why I think the amusement ones are the most interesting. So we've had Summerland and Action Park, and they both kind of happened in the past, so you can kind of say, well, they hadn't really learnt everything by then, and the rules weren't as strong as they are today. And one that really shocked me was Dreamworld, because that was actually something that happened recently in 2016, and it makes you think, gosh, these things can still happen so far in this modern age. So Dreamworld is located in Australia. This is going to be a short one because there's not really much to say about it, really. Basically what happened was, it was sort of like a river rapid ride, and there were these circular boats, and you start at the top and you get on at the top and you go around the whole thing, and then the boats have to be taken back up to the top and you get off, and the sort of same way you came in. I think the boats were carried up on a sort of conveyor belt thing, and it was something to do with like a water pump, because the water pump failed, and so basically what happened was one of the boats went sort of upwards and the other one did something else, and basically in the end 4 people died. I think there wasn't enough water or something like that, and that caused the boats to act the way they did. And it could have been prevented, of course, if they had like an indicator to tell you when the level is too low, but they didn't have one of those, and that was one of the problems. One of the videos I found most interesting was the 2-part one about King's Island. It was interesting, I think, because it was just so unusual, and it was sort of like, what are the chances of that happening? Because there was this just ordinary day. This park opens up like an ordinary day, like any other day, and 2 incidences happen on the exact same day. Within a very short time, they were quite close together, because they were taking the victims from the first incident away in the ambulances, and they had to send another helicopter across to the other place while they were still dealing with that, because of another incident which had happened. So the first incident that happens is there are these 2 men, or boys, walking along this bridge, and one of the men splashes his friend with this stream of water, and the moment his hand touches the water, he goes into this convulsive shock, and he collapses and falls into the shallow river below. And then his friend tries to rescue him by jumping into the water, but the moment he touches the water, he goes into a convulsive shock. And I think the way that the person making the video sort of explained it, it was such a mystery for me at the time, because you think, what's the cause? Why is everyone who's touching this water suddenly going into this shock? And you wonder why? Why is it happening? Why is it? Is there some sort of poison in the water or something? And you don't find out until the end of the video what actually it was. And then this caretaker comes along, and he tries to touch the water as well, because he tries to get them out, and then he goes into a shock. I don't think all of them died, though. I think one of them actually got away and survived. And what I thought was really weird was suddenly, what are the chances? A nurse walks by, What are the chances of a nurse? There's the one person you need in a situation like this. What was the chance of her just suddenly walking by like la-di-da-di-da, walking along, me being a nurse, but she does that, and she tries to do CPR, but they're gone, they're gone. And while all this whole thing's going on, in another part of the park, there's this woman, and she's with these friends, and the friends go on this flight simulator, and they go on the ride and they have a perfectly lovely time, and then because she's having a drink or something, she's finishing off her drink, she doesn't go on with them. And usually you're supposed to have 2 people in these pods, when you're going on the ride. You're supposed to go with a stranger if you're on your own. And inside these sort of pods is a lever. And if you're like really, you know, a joy seeker, you can move this stick and it can jiggle you about a bit. You know, you want a bit of a jiggle. And or also you can have the whole thing flip in a sort of barrel roll. So she goes on this ride, and you know, a short time later she falls out of it and falls to her death. So what happened in the first instance? Well, in the first story I told you there, the water was dangerous because there was a faulty aerator pump which was causing the whole water to become sort of electrical, and so anyone touching it got an electric shock which killed them instantly. And with the flight simulator story, the woman is quite drunk, and she's so drunk in fact that when she goes on this flight simulator she falls unconscious, and then her knee pushes the lever that turns her into a barrel roll, you know, and then she falls out, and that's the end of her. Now, I told you at the start that I was watching these videos quite late last night, and I tell you, the fear is real. Because I was watching those videos and then I tried to go back to sleep again, and I was really paranoid. It's quite frightening because there are only two people in this house. There's my cat and there's me at the moment. And we are the only two people who can make noises. So any other noise is quite frightening because you don't know what's making that noise. But still, there's enormous fear that builds up inside you because I am alone. There's no one here that can protect me or save me if like there's an intruder. And that's what the real fear comes from, because there's no one to help if there's danger. And that's what made me kind of a bit nervous today walking about, because I thought, you know, am I going to walk along those cliffs and there's like a great big rock going to fall down, which is something that could happen, because the cliffs do sometimes, bits of rock do fall down. And I took out all my bank cards from my phone because, you know, it's like, you know, you don't really want to carry those about. And I thought, I could just imagine the story on YouTube, like, you know, for some reason he'd taken out all his bank cards and we don't know why he did that, you know. And but the fear really is real, because I think it makes you a bit wary of your surroundings and you start to get frightened of things very quickly. But I do like these videos, and I like the sort of mystery and suspense that they bring, so I started watching a couple more of them this morning. And basically he goes into this cave called the Nutty Putty Cave. I can't actually remember where it is, but yeah, and he goes into this cave, and the cave is sort of, you know, parts of it are mapped out, but he accidentally goes down the wrong cave and gets stuck. And basically he is lying there with his head downwards and all the blood is rushing to his head. He's just stuck there for like 19 hours, you know, stuck in the same position. And they can't get him out. And eventually, you know, something snaps or the cable snaps and he just dies. And they can't get him out. And they just leave him. It's a skeleton because there's no way of getting him out. It's too much of a hazard to get him out. And so basically they just seal it up and that's it. They make a tomb for him. So yeah, I mean, I really urge people who are interested in that sort of thing, you know, true crime and such things like that, to go and check out this channel. It's called Fascinating Horror. And it really is really entertaining, although it can give you a bit of a chill if you watch it near bedtime. So don't watch it near bedtime, or don't watch it in the middle of the night, because it'll be very difficult to get back to sleep and you'll get quite scared, like I did. Or maybe you won't, but I did. And on a very serious note, watch out for tanned men who have beards, who sneeze very loudly in your local town.